Welcome to the Bangers Only podcast, where Tom Lydon and his band of experts make money talk exciting. Here's your host, Tom Lydon.
Welcome to the Bangers Only podcast. Life is short. We've got to keep things simple. Use your time to focus on what's most important. That's what Bangers Only is all about. I'm your host, Tom Lydon, and I'm very pleased to introduce today's guest, Renato Nobile, who's the founder and CEO of Buena Vista Capital and the founding partner of DEX ETFs. Renato, welcome. And are you in Brasilia today or are you in Sao Paulo?
First of all, Tom, excited to be here. I'm a big fan. Love your work. So today I'm in São Paulo, actually. So excited to do all this work, and not only at Buena Vista and also launching DEX. So it's been a great ride.
Well, I know you're a big ETF fan. We have a lot of ETF fans that are seeing Bangers Only. Um, I know you track very well and have a great relationship with ETF issuers in the States. With over $13 trillion in ETFs today, we've had a really good ride. At the same time, you've been a big proponent of ETFs in Brazil. Maybe take a second and explain to our viewers today, what does the ETF landscape look like in Brazil today?
So I've been in the financial markets since early 2000. So once I saw ETFs, I loved it. I think it's the best vehicle to give access to both individual clients and institutional clients. So I started to work very soon on that market, not only here in Brazil, and also, I talked to a lot of people there in the United States. And now, what we're seeing in the landscape in Brazil, it's pretty similar to what happened in the United States maybe 15 to 20 years ago, where in 2012, the financial markets in Brazil, they started to shift from the big banks to the broker dealers in Brazil. And now what they're starting to do is they're shifting from commission based to fee based. So ETF is starting to get some popularity in Brazil. We have around 170 ETFs now in the market, which still very small. But the good news is we closed 2025 around 95 billion reais. Of course, that's a small amount towards the total fund industry, which is around 12 trillion reais. But if you think in terms of growth, from 2024 to 2025, it was almost 100% growth on the AUM. So that's a lot. So people are
That's a
starting to
lot.
talk more and more about ETFs.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay, so just to clarify, when you're talking about going commission to fee, you're talking about the financial advisor community, correct?
Yes, yes, that's correct. So what happened in 2012? So Brazilians, they started to know the mutual funds. They got access to independent mutual funds. So they started to say, oh, now I have access to different kind of products. So what's happening now? The retail client is saying, no, now I need a service. I want to have a better allocation, and they starting to see the ETF as part of that solution. And the advisors, in the other hand, they're saying, oh, I cannot work just only focused on commission, because this client is they starting to have more gather more information towards product, towards fee, and towards solution. So that's why they started to shift a little bit towards ETFs.
Well, when you're talking about this change, which is a big, important change, and that you pointed out that we went through shifts like this in the past. I mean, today in the States, if you're a commission based advisor, that's not really healthy for the continuity of your business. You kind of, at one point in time, had to rip the band aid off and go fee only. And that's happened and that's continuing to evolve. Also, wirehouse advisors who used to be commission based now are fee based as well. So we've cleaned up here in the States to a great degree, and it sounds like you're well along that path. When you talk about ETFs, though, a lot of individuals saw about all the great things that were going on in ETFs in the States, and they actually bought US ETFs outside of Brazil. Talk a little bit about that and talk a little bit about maybe the pros and cons of doing that if you're a Brazilian investor.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think the US is always like a mirror to the financial markets in Brazil. So we start to see what's happening in terms of evolution of the market in the United States, and we replicate that a little bit behind, like 10 years behind. So what's happening now in Brazil? People are starting to diversify more and more towards international markets, and of course, when you talk about diversification, US is the primary market where any individual wants to invest in. So we have a ton of very good solutions, like fintech solutions, that the client can open an account in just one click, and he can send the money on just one click and buy whatever he wants. He based in Brazil, so that's very easy to do right now. And the funny story is, like, all the advisors, they don't know very well the financial markets in the United States. So what they buy for their clients, they buy ETFs. Same thing they should do in Brazil. But when we analyze the pros and cons of doing that, there's a lot of cons, because when a client opens an account in the United States, not only you have tax issues that the client must be aware, being a Brazilian citizen, that he's gonna have if he pass away or something happened with him or his family, and he has a lot of costs. So the big cost, which is very high, is to do the exchange. So he needs to have his reais, buy dollars, then buy any security he wants in the United States. So the first issue is the cost of doing the exchange, which is much higher of him doing it individually than doing towards an ETF in the Brazilian market. Not only that, all the transaction fee that he pays using this fintech or any other solution is much higher than he buying also the ETF in the local market. And to finalize the cons, of course, is the tax issue depending on the product that he buys in the United States. So, for an example, if a Brazilian citizen buy any kind of ETF that has an income or a dividend, he has an extra 30% tax towards the US government, and then a 15 tax paid in the Brazilian market. So that's
Wow.
a lot. That's a lot of taxes.
I mean,
And
that's crazy. So, although they have access to all the ETFs, and we'll talk about a little bit how, but you've got transaction fees, you've got the tax implications. You mentioned a little bit about, oh, God forbid you happen to get hit by a bus. The estate taxes are, I think you mentioned, like 40%. And
that's
then
it.
on top of that, you've got the currency risk that you're exposed to as well, and all that to get something that people think because it's in the U.S. it's really great, but you do the math for the average investor in Brazil by doing that, not such a great deal, huh?
Oh, no, no, that's for sure. I think the only pro that he has is actually doing the diversification, having his money in the United States in actual dollars. I think that's the only thing. But if you think in terms of access, he can have the same structure with not these costs involved, all these taxes that we talked about, accessing the same product here in the local market, and has the same exposure to the same securities, and also the exposure to the USD, which is what he's looking for. So it makes much more sense for the average investor in Brazil to buy a local ETF in B3 and have access to whatever he wants outside Brazil.
Renato, that's great. And the fact that the ETF number of issuers are growing, the number of ETFs are growing, and also in talking to a lot of the asset managers and issuers over the last month, I've found that they're all professional, smart, they all get along, they're all equally promoting the ETF marketplace because it's better for investors, and you're moving at a pretty fast rate.
Yeah, yeah, we're growing very fast in the local market here, as you said, and you talk to a lot of the asset managers here, the ETF issuers in Brazil. So it's a very unified front. So everybody is working a lot towards education, towards giving the best information to the investors and to the advisors, to the RIAs. So it's been pretty nice, and actually we were very excited for this year, for 2026, because as we said, we saw almost 100% growth from 24 to 25, and I expect this year to hit 300 billion in assets under management and reais, which is all more than threefold. So we're very excited for this year.
So also, you have a new venture, and DEX ETFs and the DEX platform is something that was your brainchild and your team created. and it's pretty exciting. Can you briefly explain what this is, what this platform's all about, what are the components of it, and why this is going to be also very beneficial for investors in Brazil?
Sure. I think first of all, we have a great team. I love the guys that are my partners. They've been my partners since 20, whatever. I can't even remember. It's been a long time. And we're also talking to a lot of our great friends and partners in the United States. So as I said, it's been a ride. And the actual idea for our new company, which is called DEX from Index, actually came from a pain that we have as a local ETF issuer in Brazil. So a pain, we don't see a lot of education in Brazil. We don't see a lot of index provider in Brazil, only like the big players, and not any kind of information. So there's not any kind of news portal focused in the ETF ecosystem. So I was actually traveling last year, January again. I was on vacation and my mind goes like crazy. I was thinking about a lot of stuff that happened in the United States. And I said, oh, I see a company here that does all the things that we suffer in Brazil, like for example, Verify. Verify was a big example for us in the United States. So the idea of DEX is to be the entire ecosystem for the product itself. So the ETF issuer, the index provider, the market maker, and all the investors. So it's based on a news portal, an event company that's going to gather everybody in the same room to discuss all these major opportunities that we have in the local market. Of course, data. So data not only for the big players, but also for the individual person that wants to understand what he's buying, how much he's paying, if and it's actual an efficient product. And the education part. The education part, I think, for me is key for any new market to grow. So we're investing a lot in education, bringing certification to the market, to the local market, and of course, a lot of information.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful to you for introducing it to me and getting involved a little bit, and also being able to bring some of our friends from the United States down there. Now, you are having a big event that's coming up very shortly on February 4th, which is the DEX ETF Summit. Talk a little bit about that and talk about some of the people and companies that'll be there.
Sure. I think first, you're a lot involved. You helped a lot, getting us together with all these great people from the United States that were key to the U.S. growth. So it's gonna be like a big event. To be very honest, I think it's the first event ever in Brazil focusing on ETFs that we're gonna have the major players in Brazil and a lot of good major players from the United States. So it's gonna be a blast, a huge event. So talking about the local players, we have all the big players, not only the big players, and also the asset managers are going to be involved. So we have the local exchange B3. The event is going to be at the big B3 venue, which is very nice and big, accommodates a lot of people. We have all the asset managers like BlackRock, we have Itaú, we have Bradesco, BTG, XP, Galapagos. The list is very big. So all the key ETF issuers are going to be present there with us to discuss all this important information. And of course, all of our friends from the United States are going to be there too to help us to have a great discussion towards this ecosystem.
Well, it's exciting, and the fact that you're tackling all parts of the ecosystem at once, and making sure that uh, in the end, Renato, it's really beneficial to the individual investor. It's kind of like in the past when we went from commission based for stocks and bonds and mutual funds to commission free, and advisors went to commission free, and the brokerage companies went to discount brokers like Charles Schwab and Fidelity, and that wave and what all that meant, and how money just followed what was right. You're kind of teeing up what's right, and the benefits and the growth from that should be unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree. I see the example of the U.S. market. What's happening now? As you said, the numbers. I think it's 13 trillion in terms of growth last year. Right, that's an amazing number, astonishing number. We have all these new players, all these key innovation where you cannot do that in a mutual fund. So I think a lot of the innovation is happening also on the ETF, and we believe it's going to be the same path to in the Brazilian market. So now the ETFs only represent less than 1% of the entire fund industry, but we're sure in a couple of years, people are going to understand more and more how beneficial this vehicle, this product is to the investor, and people are going to buy more and more ETFs. And I think the less than 1% is going to grow easy, similar to what happened in the United States, to be more than 50% of the fund industry.
Well, congratulations, and again, thanks again for including me and our crew and friends here in the States. We're excited about it. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about this event, kind of the agenda, who's going to be speaking, we'll have a link in the show notes for that. So feel free to weigh in. And Renato, it's going to be an exciting year. I think also you've even talked about having a big event in the fall. I know we don't have a date yet, but Brazil's known for putting on big financial conferences, and a venue like that would be really, really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, just for example, as you said, I think it was a little bit shocking for you. It's a little bit shocking for us in terms of the size of the Brazilian market, but we actually have the largest financial market event in the world that happens every July. The name of the event is Expert. It's from XP, which is a major broker dealer. Their stock also trade at NASDAQ. So it's a huge event. And we want to replicate a little bit of that using a lot of the success examples that we have in the United States, just focusing on the ETF ecosystem. And as you said, we're definitely going to launch our first annual event this year on the fall. We don't have the date yet, but it's going to be also a big, big event. And I think it's going to be very important to help to grow this space in Brazil.
Well, again, congrats on the idea. I know there are a lot of people around the world that are cheering you on. It's really going to be fun to hear about the progress and growth and innovation, and especially with technology today and how Brazilians embrace technology. We're not going to have to wait 15 years for this to happen. I think you're going to catch up really
Hope so.
quickly. And I'm looking forward to see you in Sao Paulo in just a short period of time. So thanks again, Renato, and best of luck.
Tom, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to talk a little bit about this market that I love, mostly in Brazil. And thank you very much to be a part of it and to help us grow to grow this business here in Brazil.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific investment advice. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results.